Welcome to Joe's Java Jive. I have the honor, the privileged honor of introducing the episode as Joe's guest today. Thank you, Joe. My name is Alea. I have got an oracle deck in my hands, and I think I'm gonna pull a card and read from the book to start us off. What do you think of that?
I think that sounds great!
All right, let's shuffle our deck and just pick a card. What wants to be said right now? All right, so the card that came out is, now, excuse me if I butcher this, it's a mantra. I think it's like a Sanskrit mantra, but it says Antar Nad Mantra, and it says lucky no matter what.
Ooh,
so
lucky no matter what.
Yeah, let's read in the book here and see what kind of inspiration it sparks.
Yeah, what does that mean? Let's see, I love that. I like to think I'm a very lucky guy.
Yeah.
We are so lucky to be alive together at the same time right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to read this book, brand new deck. The translation says, Sa is the name we give to the entire infinity, and Har is the manifestation of the divine within the matter. Re, pronounced Re while rolling the R, Re, I guess,
Re.
works as a sound junction, and Rung, pronounced Rang, R-A-N-G, allows the outward projection of the link between Sa and Har. All right. It says, you've just picked the lucky card of this mantra oracle. Do you believe in luck, or do you think it has deserted you? This mantra is called Antar Nad Mantra, which means the epicenter, Antar, of the sacred sound, Nad. The celestial communication traditionally accompanying this chant, see below in the practice's description, perfectly illustrates what this mantra has to offer. By opening your hands in the lotus position to receive the gifts of infinity and manifest them in matter, you agree to recognize all the opportunities you can seize. This mantra's sound is so powerful that it acts as medicine. It connects us to the wisdom from the past, the present, and that which our future holds. It dissolves any negativity and makes us realize how lucky we are to be alive. Not only does it amplify inner peace and our ability to create abundance and prosperity in our daily lives, but the Antar Nad Mantra also enriches our words, with a sacred vibration. Whenever they feel the need to amplify its power, yogis chant it during full moon nights. Luck and bad luck are nothing but illusions. Once we're connected to infinity as a whole, we create an unlimited reality.
Wow.
Yeah, and then...
What's the mantra again? Is that the Rang?
It's the Antar Nad Mantra. I can read it. It says the full mantra is Sa Re Sa Sa, Sa Re Sa Sa, Sa Re Sa Sa, Sa Rung, Har Re Har, Har Re Har Har, Har Re Har Har, Har Rung.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. There's a lot there, and I think for people, Hare is often used in spiritual settings, Hare Krishna. But that is something that we draw the lucky card today, folks. It's your lucky day.
Truly, truly, truly.
I love that. As abundant as we are very lucky today to have Alea as our guest here on the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, and your full name as it is on your Patreon.
Yep.
How would you pronounce that?
Alea Tamar Art and Tarot, because I'm an artist and I've been focusing a lot on doing tarot readings and working with tarot lately. So it's there's not too much art on there yet, but it's primarily tarot readings right now.
And folks, one of the best who's ever done it in my life. I am a big fan. I am on the Patreon and very much excited about talking with you today about this and about how you got into tarot, the Hudson Valley, and more. So we're going to get into all of it. Sweet. But Tamar is spelled with a T-A, right?
T-A-M-A-R, yep.
All right, folks.
Yeah.
So that's going to be where you're going to want to write down at the top, take some notes today, and we're going to just chat a little bit with each other about how we ended up here, lucky to be alive and interviewing today in the same room. As this podcast, you'll see this mantra that you just mentioned, it's something you can chant on a full moon. This podcast started on a full moon ceremony.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said. That's a good time for folks to really call out what they're looking for into the universe, right? The power of the full moon has been noted in a gathering time for many different folks.
Yeah.
Do you follow what's going on with the moon in your daily life?
Yeah, sometimes in so many different ways. I mean, I think one of the ways is like, as a woman, you know, my bodily cycles are aligned with the moon, and I mean, that's one very basic general example of how I follow the moon. Yeah, and I can't really think of other examples off the top of my head, but definitely the moon is significant and important and symbolic and energetic and has an effect on things. And
yeah, so much, and it's such a important figure. We're staring at the sun and the moon right here. I'll turn the camera around for a moment, but it's truly a beautiful thing when you study, what's going on with the planets, what's going on within, and I think what you do. Tell the folks a little bit about what it is, some of the things that you're interested in to really check in with yourself and also with the universe.
Well, the number one thing that comes to mind is listening as a way to tune in. And what I'm into, I mean, I'm into many, many different things, and I expect that we're gonna get into things bite by bite, because I could go in so many different directions. But animism is another key term that has been more relevant in my life lately, and it relates to, in my experience, I believe it's the belief that everything, like living, non-living, has a soul, and we can communicate with different energies and different objects and
this microphone
creatures.
Stand is alive right now.
Yeah,
and knows that I'm touching it.
In a way, yeah, you could say that. And it's like we can, there's so much possibility for like developing relationships with the world and our environments when we just like listen and engage our senses and ask questions and observe like what kind of comes up and happens. And so I think listening primarily is like, number one way of checking in and seeing what's there.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and on next week's podcast, we're going to be discussing this book of a woman who was an Akashic record reader, Kia, who passed on, but she left behind this book called The Gift of Listening.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that. I just listened to the podcast with Brianna talking about shamanism and animism and everything on my way here.
You're the perfect person to follow that episode in my eyes.
Yeah, I very much resonated with a lot of the things that you guys were talking about and that she was talking about. So,
well, I'm so glad to connect people like you and Brianna together, because we really are all in this together in this life. We really all want to make the world a better place and to create a community of spiritual leaders. And you are doing that very much so. And I've been a fan of that. Cheers.
Cheers.
On Joe's Java Jive.
Me and you are in the same boat.
Folks, it's the right boat. There's many boats you can be on, but the spiritual path is one.
This is the correct boat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting to think about. And animism, we talked a lot about last week, the animals, insects, beings of all kinds. And one thing that we didn't talk much about is nature, too. And I remember seeing you in one of your talks, you used a word that I remember thinking, wow, this is a beautiful word. And I want you to tell the folks about it. It was like, I believe Japanese. And it was, the meaning of it was about something about the way light appears through trees as you move.
I think Kumorebi, I think? Yeah. Kumorebi, I could be butchering this a little bit, but from what I can remember, it's like the phenomenon of how light filters through foliage.
Yeah.
So think of on a sunny day, you're walking on a beneath tree canopy on a path, and the shadows of the leaves that are more crisp are being cast by leaves that are closer, more proximal to you, and then leaves and forms more in the distance cast more like ephemeral shadows with like less of an obvious boundary, and the way that those shadows cross over and create like the texture and the form of just like, and the interplay of like light and foliage is, I'm pretty sure it's Kumorebi.
It's a beautiful word that, our language doesn't always focus on these kinds of like little details about this simulation we're in, this journey we're all on.
Yeah.
And I love that.
They pay a lot of attention, I think, to more like phenomenological kind of experiences in, I think, Japanese culture and in a lot of other languages too.
Yeah.
And it makes me curious about like the origins and the purpose for like English language. And I think that I heard somewhere once upon a time that like English was used a lot for like scientific, like gross calculating, contained like measurement kind of things like that. And I heard that. So I don't know too much more about that.
Sounds right. Like the English language. And all language and science is about labeling. We're labeling things and we're putting a word on it.
Yeah.
And great, we know what that's called.
Put a word on it.
That's it. Put some label on it. And I think part of having these kinds of conversations is we're talking about some things that are beyond words today.
Right.
Beyond what can actually be said.
Right.
So I'm really here to be a listener and learn from you as I've continued to, and I'm excited to hear about your journey. And I think the best way to start might be, where were you born?
I was born in Somerset, New Jersey.
Nice. Okay. Yep. Not too far. And, you lived there for most of your childhood?
I lived there for 7 months of my life, the first 7 months. And then my mom moved to Long Island after my dad passed away. He died when I was 7 months old. So she moved to Long Island with my brother, my sister, and I. And that's where I grew up. I was there for 16 years. And then at 16, lots of things started to change. And so, I kind of just spent like my, adolescent high school years kind of around like Queens, New York City. I was in Utah for a little bit, and then I moved to Florida. My mom moved to Florida when I was 18, so I went with her, and I was there for 6 years, and then I came to the Hudson Valley in January of 2022, and I've been here since. It's now May of 2024, and I'm actually moving back to Florida next month. So
nice. Which is why I'm really glad we're having you on this podcast while we're together in person. And I'm such a fan of moving around and experiencing different parts of the world. And I'm a little jealous of all of the moving around you've done, because I think it's really something to strive for in your life. If you've only lived in one city your whole life and you don't really have the ability to imagine what Utah looks like right now, you have to plan out in your life someday.
Yeah, and I feel like even in our own backyards, there's so much novelty to be explored. I mean, I just every time I go on a new adventure with new people and just to and have a novel experience, it's so expanding. It's just to see new environments, even at different times of year, and changing the
so true.
External context. It can be very internally expansive, and don't necessarily need to go far to do that. I think it's just a matter of putting yourself in that kind of situation. So
getting outside.
Do not fret, friends who are not able to travel long distances. You can make an adventure within a short radius of your
That's so true.
Your own place.
There's an adventure happening right now in your backyard.
Yeah.
All the insects are there. They're all partying. The squirrels,
That's
the groundhogs.
Right. That's right.
We got to just join them. If you are so inclined to leave your technology and your four walls for a little bit, there's a whole adventure waiting to happen.
There you go. There's
Yeah.
many caterpillar friends to be made.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in what drew you to the Hudson Valley, because from my understanding,
Yeah.
it's not what most people, why they would move out there.
Yeah.
Very unique story, right?
Yeah, and thank God I'm supported in the ways that I am, so I could, do this.
Yeah.
And follow my intuition, which is the I word, intuition. That's what brought me here in the first place. And every time someone asks me, like, why are you here? What brought you here? Intuition is always the answer. And it started in, I don't know the year, but for around 2 years, a year and a half, I started feeling a strong pull towards like New England area and the Northeast. And, I have ancestry up here. My roots are up here. I was born in the Northeast, family in New York. I'm 1/16th Abenaki, Native American, and some other things that are, I don't know, come from like Vermont kind of, this area. So I have some ancestral connection to up here. But yeah, I felt a pull up to this area for a year and a half or 2 years, and there's so many nooks and crannies in this story. I'm not sure what to dive into, but I would have I started working with dreams really in depth around the same time I felt pulled up here, and long story short, I would have dreams of like this land or these areas that I felt pulled to, and I knew that I felt like I would wake up just feeling like awestruck and like, I don't even know the word, but yeah, just completely taken by this like whimsical, ethereal, like sparkly feeling in my soul.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would wake up and I would like unconsciously like ask before I fully woke up, like, where is this place? And then at times I would hear upstate New York. Like I remember this one image that I dreamt of years ago around that time, and I saw the backdrop of these like deep emerald green like forested mountains, and then in the foreground there were these white like iron garden chairs and tables and these orange lilies. And when it rains in the summer and everything feels electric and the green is almost glowing when it's contrasted with like the gray, almost like lilac-y, stormy, cloudy sky. And the sun is kind of like low on the horizon and kind of casting everything in this like golden, it's just this electric like deep summer magical lush energy, and I have that scene I still remember from a dream I had, and I woke up and I heard, oh, this is upstate New York. And I had a lot of dreams like that. And when I eventually got up here and I was exploring, so I moved up here in the winter of 22, and then 6 months later, when everything is like blooming or whatever, I was seeing orange lilies everywhere, and I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And I would see these like I don't know, there's a street near my house, and it's so random, but there's like, I don't know if it's near my house actually, but I can remember seeing like little white garden chairs and tables like just tucked away on some like lush grassy little patch next to a river with like mountains in the background and on the side of a road. And I experienced a lot of little moments like that where like my dreams and those visions and feelings would like appear,
come to fruition
and stuff.
Those dreams, do you feel like you were tapping into, your destiny, almost like this is where you're supposed to go? And then when you see these dreams come true, it's like a sign of like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I followed my signs, my inner guidance.
Completely. There's a conversation to be had about like intuition and like symbols and the language that each individual speaks regarding their own personal kind of guidance systems. And yeah, I think dreams and visions and like emotional feelings and almost like physical, like kinesthetic feelings are big ways that like I receive information about my own intuitive guidance.
What's that word you use? Kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic, yeah. It's like physical sensation.
Like a metaphysical almost, like, because sometimes you know how you get a feeling of a memory or of a period of time, and yes, there's this feeling that is beyond what you can express, but it's a feeling of a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean with that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to your dreams and listening to your intuition, you will, find those more often. But for the viewer who might say, I don't have dreams like that, or I don't, my dreams don't mean anything, or I don't even have an intuition. Like, you do, but oftentimes it's buried underneath the left brain, the logical, this is what you have to do, and you just got to break even, and you got to pay your taxes, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Not to say that's all not important and part of being human, but being a spiritual human, you have to find that inner voice, and the dreams are a great place to start.
Totally, yeah. A lot of people say that they don't remember their dreams or they don't dream, and I hear that a lot, and I like to be very careful with my semantics because I never want to assume or generalize because, maybe I don't know anyone who's like tried to do a dream yoga practice and like not then begun to remember dreams. So if some people genuinely don't dream, I guess that's a possibility, but I don't know it.
Right there.
But
a dream yoga experience?
Huh?
Do you say dream yoga?
Yeah, what I mean by that is like dream work and working with dreams and dream exercise. And I know I don't know too much about it specifically, but like I think dream yoga is like a Tibetan Buddhist kind of thing, and you can Google it or read about it.
Yeah.
And sure you'll find some interesting things.
I love it. And dream work, it's deep part of psychology, which is the study of the soul. And it's
Psychology is a study of the soul?
I believe so, because I'm pretty sure psych is soul.
Okay.
And so it's the study of, that's kind of what I always interpret it as. But I think, dreams, it's more than, just what does this mean? And, I was raised with always looking at the dream books, but actually having this feeling of like, I'm visiting a place. It's really powerful, and I'm so glad that you listened to your voice and came out here.
Yeah.
And it's been a journey for you all the way. You're a painter, musician, in some ways.
Kind of.
A little bit, and
Yeah.
you are ultimately, a really talented path guider like we had last week.
Oh.
Just by listening to your intuition when you pull out a deck and letting that kind of guide you, it's a really cool thing. And when was that first time in your life? You said 16 was a big shift. Was that when you started tarot, this and that and everything, or was that earlier?
Oh, I was earlier. I think thank you for your sweet words, by the way.
Yeah.
But I got my first tarot deck when I was 13. My best friend in middle school gifted me one of those like miniature tarot decks off that little like tchotchke gift shelf in Barnes and Noble. And I remember, I think when I started to play with them in my room, I would be alone and I would play with the cards. And I've always been very sensitive to energy, and I have a history of that throughout my entire childhood, and
of being sensitive to energy.
And having paranormal experiences and stuff, and that's a whole journey and a half.
I'm really into that, and I know that this is all stuff that is some people are totally scared of it and don't think that it's like something they want to really invite,
which is something I'd love to get into as well.
So
I think that's really important to like demystify the unknown and fear and stuff like that.
Let's do it. Let's demystify it, because it's not just about scary ghosts who are coming to haunt you.
Right.
That's actually only something that's in the movies. Oftentimes, unless there are some dark energies out there. But as somebody who's subjective to it, in my life, I've found that you oftentimes want to help and heal, those dark energies when you come across them. And
a very simple way that I look at quote unquote ghosts or demons, or like a negative entity or an angry ghost or haunting or whatever, it's literally the same. It's like the same thing as like a bully in real life or a quote unquote toxic person in real life, because it's energy that is creating some adverse uncomfortable effect on your field and getting in your cracks. So it's like you got to learn to have boundaries when it comes to those kinds of energies. And also, God, there's so many things that I could get into with this. I think like, there's so many things.
Take it any direction you want.
One at a time. Like, I'm sure that so many people probably listening to this and like in our culture in general who have watched like Paranormal Activity or like, you know, these like ghost hunting movies or ghost hunting shows.
Or Exorcist, you know, the early one.
Things like that. Yeah. Like such a depiction of the way that people relate to ghosts in these like cultural like presentations in our media of like how like what a ghost is and what spirits are and what that whole realm is about. Like I just remember seeing shows where like ghost hunters would go into these abandoned like hotels or whatever, hospitals, and they would provoke the ghosts, and they would be so disrespectful.
They're calling them out, and
they're like make yourself known, bitch.
I'll show you who's boss.
And it's so disrespectful. Yeah. And it's like, what if you were a disembodied spirit? How would you feel if someone broke into this place that you had? You went through probably one of the most traumatic experiences of your life. I mean, in a psych ward, a hospital, a really jail, whatever. Like, imagine if someone walks in there in the flesh, and you, and just started like demeaning you and yelling at you, and how would it make you feel?
It's not very good, and you're making me want to tell a story. Yeah. That I'm gonna tell here. Yeah. Because you're hitting it spot on. So, you know, there was once this place I was shooting on the show I Know This Much Is True, which is a very dark energy story. It's a novel that the show with Mark Ruffalo, if you haven't seen it, he just plays two different characters, two twin brothers, but one born on New Year's Eve in 1969 and one born on January 1st, 1970. And one of them is very deeply mentally ill. And I got hired to be this like driver of a police car in the set of a mental ward. Wow. And they was like, they were just going to use the back of my head because I kind of looked like the guy's body height and I would fit the police uniform. So I show up, and it's the mistiest night you've ever seen in your life. There's fog everywhere, up a hill to this very powerfully built asylum that they show in the show. And I felt it instantly. I was very emotional, and then I saw like this downstairs little bowling alley and the gymnasium. And then the locations guy said to me, I hate being the last one here locking up. Oh, wow. And I was like, I'm so sad. And I tried to tap into it a little bit. And in my heart, after I had some time to kind of get ready, I went outside and I had a little stick of incense in my car. And I lit the incense.
Handy dandy car incense.
Handy dandy car incense. I think it was like money themed, like one of those you get at a convenience store, and I like the smell. And I lit it, and I, for some reason, felt the intuitional call to speak to the spirit of this mental ward. And I said, whoever's here, whoever hurt you, they didn't mean it. This came out of me like automatically. They didn't mean to hurt you, and you don't need to stay here any longer. Like, this place was built with the intention to help you, and whatever happened, I'm so sorry, and I feel terrible. And I had the incense, and I stuck it out, put it down, and the night went on. A couple hours go by. We're waiting. It's almost midnight. When are we going to shoot our scene? So all of a sudden, 30 fire trucks start driving up the hill. And this production also had a couple of cars burned down earlier in the shoot. They all go to that building where I was. And they were telling me holding is on fire. And I'm like, what is going on? And it's actually not on fire. There's radio chatter. They searched the whole building. There's no sign of anything. There's no fire. But when we had to chuck out that day, with the alarms going off, and I'll see if I can find the footage. I'll put it in the podcast.
Wow.
Because there was this release of energy.
Gosh, yeah.
And I felt very inclined. So I'm happy to tell that story on the podcast because you just brought it there.
Wow.
With this mental asylums holding a lot of dark energy in them.
Yeah.
So that was a moment where I was very freaked out. And later on that night, I was taking a tub or something at this hotel. And the fog from the bath or whatever, the alarm went off in the hotel.
Oh, wow.
Later that night, you know. So that's, what do you think of that story, Alea?
Oh my gosh. First of all, just thank you for sharing that. That is so, I really appreciate you sharing that story because I think the like empathy and compassion and extending your like heart and concern for a feeling. You didn't have to see a person in the flesh to care about like the energy that you were feeling and just the power of acknowledgement that you're able to gift, like the power of witnessing and listening that you're able to gift to like whether it's a person in a physical body or, you know, energy. It seems like you honestly, I feel like you like catalyzed this like energetic catharsis. I mean, on some level, a fire went off and the world around that fire responded to that fire and all this energy just like came. I mean,
it all just blew up that night.
It just, something happened and then later in the hotel with the alarm going off, it's
and I had to come back and shoot another day and it wasn't foggy and there was not this dark energy the second time. So it was a strange moment. And I remember calling my mom and she was like, "Don't do that. Don't talk to spirits like that."
That's so funny. Don't do that.
You know, she was kind of one of these, don't play with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
Don't do anything.
I played with Ouija boards as a kid.
You
Never
did.
at home though. My mom didn't want one in her house, understandably.
Same.
And respectably.
It's a tricky thing, guys. Like, you know, you don't want to dive too much into it, but at this, because if you have the protection though, and you feel called to,
exactly,
maybe you have to.
It's boundaries, man. It's boundaries. It's hugely, because you know,
And did you ever have an experience with a Ouija that felt like you're tapping in?
Oh gosh, always. I don't know. Yeah, I think like, you know, I don't know, when I was in like elementary school or middle school or whatever, like going to my friends' houses and playing with Ouija boards, like it was like, ooh, exciting. Oh my God. Did you see that? Like they just, oh my gosh, they're moving the thing and it's going crazy, whatever. Like, I don't know, like I feel like kids like to psych themselves out and just and kids are also really open and, you know, allow things to happen, and there's no thought about like whether I'm doing this or like what the cause of the phenomenon is. It's just like kids engaging with the world and these tools and experiencing them with no preconceptions. And so I don't know. I never really thought too much of like Ouija boards specifically as a kid.
One of those tools, just like the tarot in a way. And you know, I think these things are, you know, gateways into another dimension, just like dreams are. I think you were visiting your future in that dream. Yeah,
I definitely was. And gosh, I got so many stories with that. Around that same time period, I was having dreams of like the desert, Red Rock Desert in the western United States, and like White Rock Desert. I don't even know where it was. I had a lot of dreams of places that felt otherworldly or like not really like the United States, but were still desert. And just the feelings were so spectacular. But I did have a dream. Around the same time, I was dreaming of New York. And I dreamt of this red rock, like plateau desert, like as far as the eye could see, just red rock plateau as far as the horizon during sunset. So everything's hyper orange. And then I saw this red rock pillar with these 3 dikes like shooting off from the core, from the pillar. And in my dream, I was hovering above one of the ridges, one of the dike volcanic dike ridges and just like moving really fast towards the pillar at the center. And then fast forward a year and a half later, as I'm following my intuitive pull to upstate New York, I was watching a YouTube video in my little apartment in Vermont where I was staying for a month. And the video was titled like top 22 places worth visiting in the world. And then halfway through, I saw this image of Shiprock, New Mexico, and I was floored because it was the exact image that I had dreamt of.
Wow. It was right there in the flesh.
Yeah, so it really validated a lot of the visions and feelings and things that I was feeling before.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what was it that kind of, divided you to sort of be a public person? Because all these things are fun and games in your internal journey, but what kind of guided you to want to be in the world and is going to continue guiding you to kind of be a public person and talk about your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. And I want to say there's a couple different things. One of them is loneliness, to be honest. Another one is sensitivity, and another one is like experiences that seem novel, or there's not much like cultural reflection or reciprocity in these areas of my human experience. It's like I trust that the fact that I experienced something is enough to have faith in the fact that it's valid, and that like there's probably a whole culture of people on the planet that also experience life in the world in the same way. And I've kind of always had this like natural leadership like inclination in the way where I appreciate vulnerability. I appreciate sharing. I appreciate opening up and sharing these like, uncharted places in my soul as I explore them, because I think one of my intentions is like building community and like bridging gaps between myself and other people. And I feel like, I don't know, like, yeah, a lot of it is a culture thing. I want to create a culture of transparency and exploration and like, I don't know, community around these ways of just like existing in the world that were never necessarily made accessible to me in a way that told me to my face, Alea, this is so normal, and I see the way you experience the world, and here's another person who experiences the world the way that you did or that you have. And so I just, whether it's something that I've ever heard talked about before or not, I just like, I follow my experiences, and I kind of like to like speak from that place so that people can, maybe find it and use it as an anchor to validate their existence and their experience, and cultivate these abilities and learn from them and appreciate them for the gifts that they are and things like that. So yeah. And
one of those gifts that you offer, tell the folks what an intuitive body scan is.
Okay, yeah. So it's something I was on a quest. I'll give a little background for this story. So I was on a quest to find like a new therapist, mentor, practitioner, somebody who could, match me and meet me where I needed to be met. And so I Googled medical intuitives. And if you don't know what that is, let me try to kind of give a synopsis. It's pretty straightforward, I think. A medical intuitive is somebody who kind of has a sense of like what's happening in your body and can kind of read energies and feelings and stuff and just, what's going on inside your body. And some of them have like, credentialed medical training, and other people just have an ability to sense what's going on in your soma and in your psyche and things like this. So, because one of my favorite things to do is to feel feelings, and I enjoy like reading energy and feeling into that. A way that I channel it is through these intuitive body scans. So as I was saying, I was Googling medical intuitive to try to find someone to work with. And then I found this woman, and on her website, she had images of these like it looked like a 6-year-old drew them. They were very floofy and like bright crayon colors and like a 3D stick figure and just like these different visual elements and stuff of these like forms and textures and colors that represented different things. And so fast forward like a couple months later, I'm just, I woke up and I wanted to kind of drop in and connect with my body and myself, and I wanted something that was more impactful and deep than just journaling. So I thought, I'm going to draw an outline of a body and then intuitively draw the colors and forms and textures that I see, because I'm a very visually oriented person. So I use that to guide my intuition and how I express and connect and see and everything. So I sat down and I did that with myself one day, and then I parsed apart each different element and then wrote a description of what this energy was trying to say to me. So that's I did that for myself, and then I've done a couple for people. Yeah, and it's kind of a new thing for me. But
and you'd offer that to anyone listening?
Anyone listening, yeah.
Folks, you want to do it? I want to do it too. It sounds really interesting, like kind of like picking up on someone's aura.
Totally.
It's aura kind of, but deeper, like, and almost like having a dream while you're awake. While looking at someone and thinking, what is my intuition saying here? What is their intuition saying and giving off?
Totally.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a fun way to explore. And one of the principles with intuition is that, like we were saying before, anybody's intuitive. And a lot of people, I think, are mixing up what it means to be intuitive versus what it means to be right or accurate or like whatever. And it's like the point of like engaging your intuition is not to necessarily be right or even to make sense. The point is to allow that language that you best are able to communicate within to be heard. So say you want to open up your intuition visually, you want to cultivate your like inner vision. So you might sit down, ask a question, and then close your eyes and then notice what you see. Like, do you have any memories that come up? It's like, and it's really helpful to like develop kind of a meditative practice and just open up your awareness so that when you decide to listen to your intuition, you're able to observe what happens spontaneously, objectively, and without any attachment to it and without trying to analyze it. And it's like intuition doesn't have to make sense. It's just, it's
like wake up and write down everything you can remember from the dream.
Yeah.
That's something in your intuition, or meditating and then really thinking what came to me during that time.
Yeah.
I don't do that enough. Are you much of a meditator?
I used to. I used to like sit down and have like hardcore practice, and I did like Vipassana retreats, and I carried that practice with me for like months, and I meditated twice a day, every day for like 4 years, doing a specific meditation similar to transcendental meditation, but kind of like an offshoot, but from the same lineage. But yeah, I've had a lot of history of it, but I don't like actively have like a discipline for it anymore. It's kind of more like, it takes on whatever form I'm feeling. In
whatever you're going through at the day.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that, you enjoy? Just like in life, what are your happy things?
Friendship, creative collaboration, community, adventure, nature,
That's great.
Yeah, art.
Yeah, and you're a very talented artist. I've seen some of your paintings and your works. What is your inspiration there?
Thank you. Yeah, I've kind of veered away from illustration. Illustration was always my main thing, and I've kind of transitioned away from it a bit and like focusing my energy on other things. But my main inspiration for my visual art is, a lot of the times it's like love and dreams and just like visions and feelings. Like I'll just get inspired, I'll see something and I'll have like a feeling, and it's like an itch I need to scratch, and the only way to scratch it is just by like putting the idea on paper. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
just hearing you describe the nature in your dream, that moment earlier on the show today, like, just you can tell you're an artist. The way you describe trees, the way you describe this world, and hearing, you do the tarot is always so interesting to me. And that's, I think, something that I want to give our listeners an experience of it.
Yeah, cool. We can get into it.
I love it. And I think we can, take a pause and fill our cups, and maybe we'll give you, the listener, a little collective reading, if that's cool with you.
Totally cool with me.
All right, we'll be back in a moment. All right.
I like the little tablecloth you put here. That's really nice.
Yes, we got Serena's special tablecloth here.
Thank you, Serena.
It's very beautiful. Check it out. Very nice.
Yeah, put my phone down here as well.
And we are going to do a little tarot reading, folks.
Thank you, Joe, for supplying this deck. The Wild Unknown Tarot, because I forgot my tarot deck.
All right. Yeah, it's a new deck. I think I got it on Buy Nothing. And while you're shuffling, I'll tell the folks my first deck. I wanted to say I was a Buy Nothing New Paltz. So a lot of things, kind of like Brianna said about her shaman drum last week, like let it come to you.
Yeah.
This one came, and when I went to pick it up, there was a male and female deer staring at me as I drove to pick it up. And I was like, okay, I'm meant to be here right now.
Totally. Love that.
Very cool paintings on there.
Yeah, the art is really nice. So what is our question or intention? Like, what are we reading for right now?
I want you, the listener, to maybe think about that, because we each might have a different thing. For me, I think in this May, we're all sort of blooming right now. And I think both of us are near our Saturn returns and feeling like...
I think it's a little closer.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Find what it is you're really about in this life.
Yeah.
So trust your intuition, and I'm going to internally, ask a question.
Okay. So I'm just going to play with intentions and speak one out loud. My intention in pulling these cards is to read something that anyone listening can find some piece, at least, that they can resonate with and that can serve them and support them from here on out in their journey. So I hope to read a story through the cards that offers and facilitates some level of guidance or comfort or clarity or insight or things like that. So let's see. Is there I'm just asking the cards here, is there a main theme that we want to begin with or focus on? And that's the star. The star card is all about, think of your North Star, guidance, internal guidance system, intuition, hopes, dreams, wish fulfillment. So maybe for anyone listening, some theme that's been prominent in your world has been your aspirations, your dreams, your goals. Maybe you feel like things are being fulfilled, or you're coming closer to fulfillment, or you're finding these spaces in your soul where you're able to connect with this life-giving kind of substance. What else other than the star should we focus on? Okay, the Seven of Swords. Let's just get some more and do a general. I feel like, just with the star and the Seven of Swords, I feel like they're kind of maybe a little bit opposite energies. The Seven of Swords is commonly known as a deception card. So, thank you for doing that. I need to do it next time.
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, the deception.
Yeah, so usually it's associated with illusion, hiding, lies, uncertainty, lack of clarity, miscommunication. So that coming out next to the star card, dreams, I wonder if for anybody listening, what I'm picking up on is there's a sense of maybe a feeling of being eluded by a certain dream, or trying to understand what a certain dream is, or like where, trying to understand like the core of something, or like the root of your own fulfillment, and like what is blocking that. Like this is pointing to like something that is elusively fulfilling, or like maybe not quite the real thing, or just like a veil over that. And honestly, I don't even know what I'm doing right now, but
yeah, we're just starting this off.
Yeah, responding. What else do we need to focus on? What else can be useful? Oh,
I'm gonna move that in.
Okay, yeah, the moon. This is a lot of elusive kind of energy. The moon and the Seven of Swords coming out next to each other gives me the energy of just like not having the whole picture yet, or like needing to wait. Because it's like sometimes in life, actually this resonates with me personally a little bit, which makes sense because I'm the one reading the card, so of course I'm going to connect it with my experience. But the moon as an advice card could suggest to wait before making any decisions. It's almost like, you know, the moon, we were talking about the moon earlier.
We were.
Influences tides and cycles and things like this. And, you know, sometimes if we want to walk safely on the seashore, we need to wait for the waves to come back. That was a little explosive.
We're waiting for the waves to come back, folks.
Yeah, just like waiting for the waves to recede so that you can like safely walk on the shore and, I don't know, do what you need to do and like forage little clams or whatever, like just making up metaphors. But yeah, there's some energy of like, I don't know, waiting for clarity. Yeah. What else? And also, if you have any questions or anything that you think of, like, you know, we can play into that as well, because I'm really just going off the top of my tongue with this.
Yeah, the star and the moon, how are they different?
So the moon relates to intuition and emotions, and so, you know, when the moon card comes out, it typically represents like just like the murky, unseen, you know, the subconscious, the like ebbs and flows, the quality of change, of uncertainty, potentially insecurity. And then the star is like it's like one of my favorite cards because it represents wish fulfillment and hope. And yeah, those
then
things.
Right in between we have this sleeping
sleeping
mammal,
fox. Yeah.
sleeping fox.
The sly fox.
Who is, you know, sort of stuck in between these two. That's something interesting right there.
That is interesting, yeah.
Sets up a dilemma that I think this next card might, you know, serve some answer to. Okay,
so do you think you could formulate a question for the next card?
I guess the question is, you know, for me, if I was that sleeping fox, you know, which side should I be devoting more energy to? The subconscious, the pain, the focus, or the gleaming, confident direction?
Okay. I'm going to pull cards for, like, suggestions on your, like, how we can relate to these two energies individually.
Yeah.
So what could be of service to do or focus on or invoke in relation to this hopeful star energy? Relate to the star. Okay, so what is this? In reverse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of Swords reversed, and the Hierophant. That is really interesting. And then, okay, might need to go in the book. Do you have a little guidebook for this one? I could just read it upright.
Yeah, it's actually on a QR code here, so I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll do that while
All right, cool.
Talk about that.
Cool. And then for the moon, let's see what is some good advice on how we can relate to this lunar energy. What kind of, how we could respond to the lunar energy. We got a lot. Just came out. Oh, we have 2 cards here. All right. Well, Judgment and Son of Swords. I think. Okay.
So I have
got the book here.
Book here.
These are upside down as well. God, that's like tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
So you can kind of guide into that. Right now, I'll just show the audience what's happened here. So under the star, we had this 8 of Swords reversed and the Hierophant, which is this raven struck by lightning with the key.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, right off of there, that's like kind of reminding me of electricity, and how it all got started. So that's very interesting. And then under the moon, we have Son of Swords, and it's like an owl riding a sword, and the classic Judgment. And it looks like that's reversed as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to read these upright, honestly, because...
Yeah.
It's like a lot of crazy energy. And okay, let me just check the Son of Swords. Is he the page or the knight? Page, knight. Okay, so he's a knight. So we have the Knight of Swords and Judgment. So let's see. The question was, how do we relate to these energies? How would we be best served to relate to these energies? And honestly, with the 8 of Swords and the Hierophant, so the Hierophant represents a wisdom teacher, a traditional path of wisdom, traditional teaching, religion, tried and true and tested path. And I believe it relates to the planet Saturn because it's all about discipline and structure and, frameworks and guidance. So the Hierophant, in any situation, can bring out the wisdom and the teaching and the knowledge and the empowerment in any situation. And so because it's coming out next to the 8 of Swords, in response to how do we best relate with our hopes and dreams, essentially, I feel like, the way I would read this advice, honestly, is like, find a mentor or find, like, ground your... The 8 of Swords also objectively represents scattered energy, or like the short circuit kind of like split focus, maybe too much thinking and not enough doing, or just an imbalance and like an overactive mind. So that could manifest as worry or anxiety or whatever. And it typically represents like mental health issues, because of that. So I would say, like, if you have some hopes and dreams in your life with the star, some aspiration, where in your life is the energy that you're putting into those hopes and dreams getting maybe spread a little too thin? And how can you utilize knowledge, wisdom, mentorship, the container of like a school or a workshop or a class or a practice to ground that down, to feed your dreams? So I hope that makes sense, but that's how I...
And one question is, like, how does the 8 of Swords differ from the 7? Because that's kind of interesting that it came sequential like that.
Right. The 7 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, like I was saying, represents energy that's a little spread too thin. It's like an overactive mind. It's like speed and quickness on top of speed and quickness, and creates this chaotic, like almost distracting energy
all over the place.
Yeah, in an objective way, which, like I said, can manifest as anxiety or overthinking or depression or mental ailing, kind of. And the 7 of Swords relates to just deception and hiding and uncertainty, lack of clarity, something hidden, something out of sight, something unclear, something a little foggy. So,
and then this Hierophant, channeling the lightning bolt there and using, like you said, classes, teachings, workshops.
Yeah.
It seems like it's one direct source of light, which is coming from the heavens. And it's like all going into the key that the bird is standing on. And
it's funny because physically, the way the cards are placed, like the star is shining down and the lightning is coming from the beams here, even at the same angle.
Yeah.
Like the light of the star, of the guiding North Star, or intuition, whatever, is like feeding the key
Yeah.
to your, yeah.
So it seems like to me the star in its best right is providing the Hierophant a direct energy source, and so it's like sit on the key that's going to give you that direct source. Otherwise, you might just be kind of scatterbrained, like what looks like to be a butterfly in a cocoon, and dealing with juggling too many swords. Like, it reminds me of the card in the traditional sense where he's like holding too many staffs or swords. Like, you just there's a balance there. So that's very interesting for connecting with our star. And then we have the moon over here on the right.
I like the way you just like read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the moon, okay, so we have the Knight of Swords and Judgment. Can I have the book for this Judgment? I always kind of mix up Judgment and Justice. Well, I guess Justice is more related to fairness and truth, and Judgment is like atonement, kind of like weeding out what to keep, what to let go of, and stuff.
So you want to see the Son of Swords or the Judgment
card? Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to find that one. And the Judgment is one that's in the traditional.
I think you can go up and then go into the major arcana.
Because isn't that one in tarot, regular tarot, as like the scale? Am I thinking of that correct?
No, that's Justice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's Justice and Judgment.
And this is the major arcana.
Yes, the major arcana. 163.
Yeah, these are, so Justice is different. This is, so you've got your Judgment and the Son of the Swords.
Which would translate to the Knight of Swords in the traditional tarot.
Okay. Yeah, so the Judgment, here it is.
It's card number 20, so you can go all the way.
There it is. So it's
the Emperor.
Is it technically the Emperor?
No. It would be Judgment. It's the XX, so
okay,
it's 20. So you want to go down to 20.
Yeah, and folks, this is a great example of you can teach yourself this stuff and experiment yourself, and that's a great way to go about it. So let's hear what Judgment's about.
Yeah, so this is just I think her name is Kim Kranz who does this Wild Unknown Tarot, and this is what she wrote about Judgment in her book. It says, the word judgment conjures up fear and guilt in many people. This card, however, concerns itself with another aspect of this word, seeking the truth. No more blaming yourself or others, no more excuses. Now is the time for forgiveness and personal freedom. This card asks you to rise up and let pettiness and fear fall below you. Expand your wings and be reborn. What a relief it will be. So immediately I feel like this is pointing to an objective reassessment of like life and how you're contributing to your circumstances, and putting aside the ego to rediscover and explore like where's your integrity, kind of. And like Judgment Day, or I think Rosh Hashanah, like in the Jewish tradition, it's like it's a day of atonement or a time of atonement, and it's kind of like when God comes down and looks at our lives and what we've done and not done and judges us, essentially, which could sound kind of like harsh, but it's like judgment is a necessary like process to go through in order to atone like how we're living, and so we can weed out the behaviors and decisions that maybe don't serve us, and focus more on ones that are geared towards like the trajectory that we want to go in. So yeah, I think the Judgment card just speaks to like being honest with yourself and whatnot, and
for your decisions. It's like if every little black bird beneath the big godlike bird. These are all things that are being thrown at you. It's like, to me, options of, you could do this play, you could do this job, you could do this, you could do nothing and say no to all of that, because there's the Holy Grail waiting, and finding that in the darkness too, and in the moonlight. I feel like there's something about using your intuition to guide you, towards the right decisions in the dark, and then you end up in the light using your intuition in the moment.
Okay, sorry, I got an alarm going off.
Oh, that's good. So we're coming down the home stretch.
That's your laundry alarm.
That's my alarm to change the laundry and start practicing with happenstancery. But the Son of Swords,
yes, aka the Knight of Swords. So looking at Judgment and the Knight of Swords as advice for the question, how do I most efficiently engage with the energy of the archetype of the moon? And what I would read as an answer to this is act with integrity in your truth. I mean, it's really that simple, because the Knight of Swords is a man or a character of action. He's a man of speed and enthusiasm and vigor and kind of like going out in the world and pursuing the truth. And he's got a brave heart, and he is quick moving, and yeah, he serves truth.
And it could be kind of looked at as a pen to me. You know, the pen is mightier than the sword. And it kind of looks like, you know, to me, my inner journaling is brought up as I look at that, you know, and kind of the night, especially being that it's the night, NIGHT, when the moon comes out. You know?
Yeah.
Take some of your questions to the page, folks. Journal, question, find your intuition. That's one way I do that.
Yeah, totally. That is a good practical bit of advice for these two cards.
Fast moving, as you mentioned, you know, quick, ready to switch and, you know, document all. I hope you folks find that this is serving you, you know, because this is all a message for all of us here. I think you see a true, beautiful balance of the different ways in which tarot can change your life. And I highly recommend you go to Patreon and check out Alea's tarot. Tell the folks real quick what you plan to do in your next chapter here.
Yeah. So I am planning on soaking up as much friendship and Hudson Valley Wonder as possible before moving back to Florida. And when I go there, I'm going to use that as a home base to travel and do all that. And I'm going to continue working on my tarot and my, you know, my different things, art, the Patreon, getting more into that. So, yeah.
We'll be supporting you, and I hope you'll come back to Joe's Java Jive if we need some. We're definitely going to need some more spiritual guidance, and I love that together talking about the cards. It feels really natural and fun. So I hope to invite you back, and we'll definitely be supporting you in your next journey. I wish you seriously so much luck, as we covered in our first, you know, initiative card, and I hope that you find exactly the right places to be. So you are a star, Alea. Thank you so much for being here. You are an extremely talented and just super connected to spirit. And I'll be supporting you as long as I'm alive.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
All right.
It is a big pleasure, and I look forward to next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well. Yeah.
And for you, the listener, check us out. Check out Rustic Peach on Instagram, right? It's a good way to find you.
Yep.
And there's so much more to come, folks. Your journey has just begun. And thank you so much for listening.
Yay. See you next time. Take care.
Woo!
Ow!
Woo!